Well, here we are. Tracey, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited to hear the latest about you and your business. And I know the listeners of the podcast show are very excited about hearing all about this too. And obviously, we are now also live on LinkedIn. That's really cool. So, Tracey, thank you again for joining me. I start these conversations in the same way most of the time. People don't want to hear me wittering on. So why don't you tell us all about you, your journey to where you got to where you are today?
Thank you, Jill. Really pleased to be with you and excited to just share the news of the new business. But as you say, well, there's always a beginning. So
Yeah.
bit about my background. My career began in South Africa. I worked in retail as a visual merchandiser and as a booker for a model agency. I also had the opportunity to work as a commercial model. So that enabled me to travel extensively, which is a real passion of mine. When I relocated to the UK, I worked in a real mixed bag of businesses, starting in a private members club, which was a fantastic insight into the club scene in London in the early noughties,
Right.
which was, the days of the mega clubs.
Okay.
And then I moved into the luxury sector, and I worked with a variety of brands where it was my first experience in terms of networking, where you were business to business networking and supporting companies to raise their profile. And then finally, when I had the chance in 2010, I got to launch my first business. And something really close to my heart, because I'd always wanted to own something and develop something and build it. And my love of hospitality, took me to this place, and I launched my first restaurant marketing consultancy.
Wow.
And that was so much fun. I got to work with small independent businesses and large global organizations, and just delivering marketing, social media, and events. And it opened so many doors that, in time, I was then invited to teach social media marketing at Le Cordon Bleu in London. And again, such a wonderful opportunity, and meeting a diverse range of people from all over the world. And clearly you can hear food and hospitality is a passion. And while I was doing all of this, I was volunteering as well with a charitable organization called Slow Food, which supports good, clean, fair food for all. And part of that was about educating myself about provenance, where our food comes from, agriculture. And actually, to this day, I still support the Soil Association for the same reasons. And then I paired up with a business partner, and we launched a network of our own, which we felt was missing at the time, which was the London Restaurant Network. And we wanted to find a space for professionals in the industry to come together, share knowledge, share contacts. And we got the support of some fantastic, well-known chefs. Marcus Waring, Michelle Rue Jr., Tom Akins. They all came and spoke at our events, and I think felt that this was their way of giving back. And to this day, I still have a diverse network of people that I've met through these businesses, which, hospitality's been good to me. So it always has a special place in my heart.
So we met networking. Was this the same type of networking that you're talking about there?
Very similar in terms of format, event-based, influential speakers and individuals actively supporting partnerships amongst the network.
Got you.
And, it still, it works to this day. And in fact, that was one of the fundamental reasons that I think I've been able to settle in a new city is by reaching out to people in the networking community on the South Coast, which, as you say, how we met.
Yeah.
And that sort of took me to a whole, new playing field, because so 2018, when I relocated, I was busy meeting people in the local community. I was looking to work on a consultancy basis, and ended up niching my business down to just do social media training and strategy, which I still do now. And again, supported through the networks that I've met. And I think bringing it right up to date now, I am launching a new business in May, all around functional breath work, which is really aimed at physical and mental well-being. And really crucially, this ties into my passion and my sport, which is freediving.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us a bit more about, I know, but tell us a bit more about your freediving and how that's had this impact. And in fact, you've created a whole new business.
Well, it starts back in 2012 because I got my PADI scuba qualification, and I was at a London dive show, and I went to a simulated freedive session, which might sound really odd. Everyone's sitting there holding their breath, but it absolutely blew my mind, and I was hooked. And fast forward to moving to the South Coast, I found a freediving club where I could get certified and train and compete. And that is something that I've been doing now since, 2018.
So just for people that may not know, explain what freediving is.
So freediving is a form of underwater diving that relies on breath hold rather than the use of breathing apparatus.
So you go diving without any breathing apparatus, basically, and you can stay underwater for how long?
Depends how relaxed I am on the day.
Very, very relaxing day, and it's somewhere very warm. How long can you hold your breath for?
Oh, well, my PB is 3.5 minutes, but you know, the world record for women is over 9 minutes.
No.
So I've got some way to go.
Wow. Okay, sorry, I interrupted. So tell us about, you found a freediving club.
But I think what makes it such a personal experience is not just a sport for me, because there was a lot of positive transformation that happened throughout my training process. And diving every day taught me how to control my breath, calm my mind, focus on the task ahead. Because freediving is like a mirror. When you hold your breath, your mind goes crazy. All those things you worried about come flooding to the fore. And that's why with freediving, there's a lot of association with meditation, with yoga for flexibility. But really, more importantly, it really is a way to understand yourself and have a deeper connection with your mind, your body, and with nature. And all of those things are very important to me. And one of the things that surprises most people when they learn the sport is that you become a little bit braver, because you suddenly realize you're capable of so much more than you think you are. That self-talk that we all have, you know, you challenge yourself, you find a new opportunity and you can't believe that you've done this. And it's just like, well, I can do this in other parts of my life. I was also very inspired by a book called Blue Mind, written by Wallace J. Nichols. And he talks about how being in or near water can help you achieve a calm state of mind. And there's lots of scientific evidence to prove that when you're close to water, it increases your sense of happiness and well-being. And when you're actually in water, think about having a warm bath or a nice shower. Your nervous system relaxes, it calms down. You can suddenly be more creative in your thinking. So water associated with breath work for me has been really fundamental in my development and learning. I
can see that, because I've always hankered after a sea view from a house, but you're right. Those of us that, we're very fortunate that we live very close to the sea, but there is something really special going onto a cliff top or on a beach and just looking out to sea, isn't there? And it is very calming. You're right.
And I think more people should have that opportunity, you know, particularly if you live in an urban environment quite a lot. And I think that the specialized training that I then did with my freediving encouraged me and inspired me to just want to know more. So I've actively researched breathwork techniques over since 2017, actually. And I found a program that really fits with my sport, and also the fact that it can have incredibly powerful mental wellness capabilities. by empowering us as individuals, because the breath is part of who we are. And so I'm now very pleased to say I'm certified Oxygen Advantage instructor.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm launching my first course next week.
Wow.
And it's a 4-week course.
Yes.
And I did a whole series of case studies over the last few months to really practice and get feedback. And what has really struck me the most is that people come into the process and they might have the objective to reduce asthma, improve resilience, but they'll get other things out of it, like improved sleep, recovery for injury. One of my case studies is swimming the English Channel for charity, and he's going to incorporate the training with his swimming training.
Yeah.
So, and it's ageless, you know, from teenagers, even younger children, you know, we can all learn to breathe better. So on a very personal basis, this for me is something I practice daily.
Yeah.
And if you practice something regularly, it improves the neuroplasticity in your brain. And we can literally, it's a gift you can give yourself.
Yes. And what does it give you then, this practicing that you do? What's the difference? We've talked about a new business, but what's the impact on you individually as a person?
I think the word that comes to mind is equanimity, balance, and calm. You know, because we live in stressful environments, even if you know, and it can be anything. It can be work, it can be relationships. It could be, even if you're an athlete and you're training, you're putting your body through stress. But when you can manage your breath and you understand scientifically the impact it has on your nervous system, your mind, your body, you start to understand how to manage those negative emotions. I'm a lot calmer. My friends will say, "You're really calm." It's like not my usual anxiety self.
Oh, well, I have to say I've always been you very calm, but I'll take your word for that.
But I think we can all find ways to improve it. Oh, and my sleep has improved a lot. So we can all sleep more, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And obviously, I mean, we're recording this, and I'm afraid it's still in the midst of a global pandemic, although in the UK it might be getting a little bit easier now. Presumably this is something that's really, really positive. And has that helped you at this time?
Absolutely. I think when we went into the worst of the pandemic, overall, we all were living with this underlying sense of anxiety and stress.
Yes.
And being able to focus the mind, and this is an interesting point, it's very easy to say, "I'll just be mindful or meditate." A lot of us cannot do that because our minds are just too active.
Yeah,
and we had this conversation really. When you incorporate nasal breathing and breath hold is the hook that focuses the mind.
I'm holding my breath as you speak, but yes, I understand.
But if you do it, if you're guided through this, I'm not just saying people need to sit at home now and hold their breath, but if you are guided through the process and it's gentle and it doesn't stress the body, you are able to find solutions. And I think that's the one thing that helped me just keep on an even keel, as it were, is incorporating these breathing techniques.
Yeah. Fabulous. Now, there's one thing I've always meant to ask you, and now I've got the opportunity. You talked about earlier on this as a sport, your sport. So how does that work then? So you've already shared with us how long you can hold your breath for. So how does freediving as a sport work? What do you do? You know, are there competitions, and is it somebody jumps in a pool and holds the breath and stays underwater? Can't be that, can it?
It's so much more than that.
I thought it would be. Tell us about it, Tracy.
So for me personally, I belong to the British Freediving Association. So every country will have an association. It's like a governing body that manages competitions. And then we have global governing bodies that are record and rule keeping organizations, which I'm also a member of. And when we do normal pool training, because it's a controlled environment,
Yeah.
You're not dealing with equalization issues. You're just practicing your breath hold and distance training. Or if you're doing depth training in the ocean or a quarry, there's one near Bath called Wobster that I train at. And that's very much focusing on equalization and learning how to move the air from your lungs through into your eustachian tubes. And there's lots of cool things that happen in the body when you go down to depth.
Yes.
Perhaps we can have another conversation about that. But the human beings as mammals, we have a mammalian dive reflex, which activates when you immerse your face in water.
Okay.
And you will be surprised how long you can hold your breath for. Most people just don't believe it's possible, unless you have a serious or chronic lung condition.
Yes.
But that's interesting with the competitions, as much as they are, yes, you're competing with other people, essentially you're competing with yourself. And your PB is your personal, it's your personal best. And we haven't been able to compete or train during the COVID pandemic. So, body has to adapt again, but I still do my breathwork training. I have an instructor. Instructors need instructors, which is really important. Yeah. And there's an amazing family of people around the world. And I say family because you can literally dive anywhere, and there's a community of people that will look after you or look out for you. Because essentially when you dive, your life is in someone else's hands.
Yes.
And vice versa, because you never dive alone.
No.
So for someone like me who grew up by the sea, I love the ocean. I love being in water. I find it really comforting. Learning techniques and, mental strengthening training so that I can spend more time in the water and underwater, it ticks all the boxes for me. It makes me very happy.
Wow. Fascinating. Excellent. So are you intending to compete? Have you already competed? Is that a plan?
I have actually in 2019.
Yeah.
And it was the British pool championships.
Okay.
And it just kind of blew my mind as well, because I got there, I was really nervous, but it's one of the most welcoming communities you will find. And it was really a massive leap ahead for me. I just felt really good with what I'd achieved, and I didn't expect to do as well as I did in one of my disciplines, but I really enjoy what we call no fins. There's various different styles of freediving, with fins, without fins, with a monofin, not moving at all, just face down in the water and holding your breath.
Yes.
And yes, you want to see how well you do against other people, but essentially you are competing against yourself. So it encouraged me and motivated me, because I thought, hang on a minute, I can do this. I didn't know I could.
Yes.
So purely for confidence, and remember what I mentioned earlier about being a little bit braver.
Yes.
You start to think about these things when you're not in the water, and you think, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
I'm going to give that a go, because I'm sure I can go. I'm sure I can do that.
If I can hold my breath underwater for 3 minutes, then I can certainly go.
Well, not that long underwater. That's out of water. But to be fair, everyone that I've met through the community has been very welcoming and encouraging.
Excellent. And now, in terms of world champions and ocean diving, how far do they go down? And
well, I think it's over 100. Oh gosh, I think the female world record at the moment is over 113 meters in depth.
Good heavens.
I need to double check the exact numbers, but the men's is a bit deeper.
Yeah.
But honestly, when you watch these professional freedivers who, they've been diving for years and years, because it takes a long time for your body to adapt.
Yeah.
There is a sense of absolute calm and serenity, because you are surrendering yourself when you're in the water, and you're trusting your training to get you back up. Because getting down is fine. It's getting back up again, and not blacking out, and managing your oxygen through the body. So it's very technical, but there is a real sense of being at one with the ocean.
Yeah. I'm reflecting on your beautiful website and that beautiful blue colour, and it is all very relaxing and calming looking. So time has gone on as I take things off on a tangent as normal. Tell us about the course then next week. Presumably there'll be possibly spaces left, but also more courses to come. How does that work online?
It currently is going to be all on Zoom until we can do in person.
Okay.
So one-to-ones over 4 weeks or small groups. The first group is almost sold out, which I'm really pleased with. And I've offered it to people who've known about it for a while first.
Yeah.
But in June, I'm taking inquiries for the next one. I purposely keep the group small because I think it's really important that you have feedback during the process. The classes are 1.5 hours long on average, once a week for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
You get worksheets and scoring so that you can track your progress daily, which I think is really important. And the feedback I've had from case studies I've worked with is the fact that it's not a one size fits all. We don't just slap a course out there and everyone gets the same result. It's very much a personal journey, very much like my freediving. And at some point, I think in the future, I would like to introduce some of my freediving exercises and training that I do in addition.
Yes.
Because it's just people are interested. And it's a real combination of, I would say, holistic exercises.
Okay.
But as I said before, we focus on nasal breathing, breath hold, as well as movement. So it's not static lying on the carpet and sleeping. You're going to be up, you're going to be walking, you're going to be jogging, and you won't be doing it on your own. So if people are interested in finding out more, they can reach out by email.
Yep.
Tracey at bluemind.social on the ticker tape.
Yeah.
Or they can connect with me on Instagram and we can have a chat.
That's lovely. I've sort of taken this to the end, but I haven't quite finished. I'm particularly keen for you to share those details because we have listeners all around the world, a lot of listeners in the US, and while you're online, then there's maybe an opportunity for people all around to get in touch. But I always ask guests a particular question, Tracey, which is about the imposter syndrome, because as you know, that's one of my favorite subjects to talk and write about. And I'm just wondering, given your abilities to be calm and focused, whether that's something that does impact on you on occasion? And if it does, how would you deal with it?
I thought about this question quite a lot when you told me about it. And I don't think any of us can say hands on our heart that we never feel self-doubt or any kind of imposter syndrome. I never really felt that with my social media business, interestingly, because I felt like everyone was going from the beginning, the sort of start point. We were all on the same journey. There was with the new business, despite I feel confident about my subject matter, it's the first time I'm going from a B2B business to a B2C business.
Yes,
and it's a very different, as you know.
Yes.
You know, and there are questions like, am I believable? Can I actually do this? You know, are people going to commit to these programs and want to invest in it? And I go back to Brené Brown, one of my favorite authors, she has a little mantra, which I've adopted.
Okay.
And it's courage over comfort.
Lovely.
And that really helps me, you know, just focus and go, you know what? I got this. And I'm not on my own. I've got people who can support me. So that's another thing. Never think, you know, you can do this by yourself. Always ask for help.
Always. And because people love to help. You know, I've had that many conversations with so many women, as you say. And I think, you know, generalizing, I know I'm generalizing, but a lot of the time we're not always good at asking for help. Maybe we're suffering, we're trying to be perfect too much, but, you know, people love to help. And as you say, when you've got a community like you've talked about, then there's always going to be someone to reach out to. Fabulous. Any tips for listeners around, you know, from your freediving expertise in terms of managing that, you know, having that ability to be calm and maybe managing a bit of anxiety, particularly in these current times?
I think that what really works generally is to remember to just pause. And we do a lot of this in the training. You don't have to hold your breath for long. It could be a second. But when we are thrown into an anxiety-driven situation, or we can feel that stress level rising in the dry mouth and the sweaty palms, that is the time to just take a step back, take a breath through your nose, and just hold it for a second. And then just slowly exhale. And that pause interrupts the pattern and the nervous system. It's a physiological effect, but it does have a knock-on effect mentally. So that brief moment, we always say take a deep breath. It doesn't have to be a deep breath through the mouth. A gentle inhale, pause, and a gentle exhale. That just gives you that moment to reflect before you react. And another thing I like to say to myself, and this is a word you've heard me use quite often, thanks Brene Brown again, is that you're worth being brave. We're worth it. We have to give ourselves that permission sometimes.
Yeah, brilliant. Super. Tracey, thank you so much. As you said just now, in the ticker tape, if anybody's watching us on LinkedIn Live, the way to get hold of Tracey is Tracey at Blue Mind Social, and you can connect on Instagram at Tracey May House. And I'm going to put all the details into the show notes when we create the podcast out of this, Tracey. It's been fabulous. Thank you so much for coming along and telling us all about it. When are the courses starting? Just to finish off on that, to keep people reminded.
The first one starts on the 12th of May.
Yeah.
The June date is probably going to be mid-June. So if they're interested, they can just reach out to me and I will send them more information.
That's brilliant. Tracey, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been fascinating. I'm really, having been one of your case studies and worked a little bit on this, I know it really can make a significant difference, and it's just fabulous talking to somebody about something so interesting. So Tracey, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jill. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.